Hi everyone, welcome to Mommin'. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jessica.
And we're so excited to be here for our first episode. We really believe that all moms have a story to tell, and we know that as moms, we all have so many tips and tricks and support to share with each other, and we really hope that we can help each other learn those things through this podcast.
Yeah, we are so excited to be talking today with Jen Kroll. Jen's a new mom, and she is a brilliant communications professional. She lives in Washington, D.C. with her husband, Chase, and they welcomed a beautiful baby boy named Tristan on July 1st. And while the hospital bag must-haves didn't used to include a face mask and hand sanitizer, they are now the top things that people are going to be bringing with them because things have really changed in the past 5 months. Jen's going to share all about her experience being pregnant during a pandemic and how her ideas of delivery and postpartum support really changed once COVID started. And more importantly, how she's adjusting to be a family of 3, or rather 5, as she has 2 adorable pups. We hope you enjoy her story, and if you're currently expecting, we really hope that you take away some comfort or tips from her experience, and just know that you're not alone. There's other people who are going through this experience as well. With that, let's jump into our conversation with Jen, and thanks for listening.
Hi, Jen. Thanks for joining us today on our first ever episode of Mommin'.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here on your first episode.
So tell us how you're doing with the new baby.
Oh, I'm doing great. So today is his 6-week birthday, which is just crazy. I mean, I know he's only been on this world for 6 weeks, but I feel like I've known him for years. But he's doing great. He's just a huge baby. I think he's about 10 pounds now, and he is growing really well. He eats well. He sleeps well. I feel very lucky.
Oh, that's so good.
Yes, the sleep especially.
Yeah, he sleeps in a 6-hour stint at night, which I think is unheard of.
Yes, that's awesome. And funny to think that you're saying 6 hours of sleep is great.
Yeah.
Because hey baby, you might not.
That's true.
So why don't you go ahead and, for our listeners, because we know you already, we're lucky enough to have known you for years. Jen is wonderful. If you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, I guess where you live, what you do for work, all that good stuff.
Sure. So I'm a public relations consultant based in Washington, D.C. See, I've been out here for more than a decade now, which time has just absolutely flown. It's been great. I'm married to a wonderful man named Chase. We got married last fall, actually. And I'm a first-time mom for a 6-week-old.
Awesome. And do you have any pets?
I do. I have 2 fluffy little dogs who I'm surprised are not bothering me right now. But they're a little clingy.
Yeah, you should have said first-time human mom, really.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, my human baby is my 3rd baby.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing we really want to talk about with our guests, something that we love talking about and hearing about, is how you decided to have kids, how you decided you were ready and that you wanted to have them, if you talked ahead of time about how many you wanted and all that good stuff.
Well, Chase and I always wanted kids. It's something that we've always talked about since we started dating. And one of the reasons why I married him is because I knew he would just be the best dad in the whole world. He just has this curiosity for knowledge and wanting to teach. And I see him he has 10 nieces and nephews, and I see them with them, and they just adore him. And so I knew he'd be a great dad. And it's part of one of the reasons why, I wanted to marry him and knew he'd be so perfect for me. So we'd always wanted kids. I think growing up, I wanted a big family. And, I wanted like 5 kids or something crazy like that. And now, after having one, I think 2 or 3 is probably good. But it's funny because I asked Chase, and when we first started dating, he would say he wanted 2 or 3 kids. And now he's like, oh, I want 6.
Oh, funny.
Oh, wow.
Probably won't happen. DC is expensive, and it's hard to raise kids and be a full-time working mom as well. But yeah, so somewhere between 2 and 6, but likely 2 or
Maybe another dog.
Maybe, yes, another fur baby.
Right. Might be easier. Who knows?
So we'd always talked about it, and we always knew we wanted kids, and it just seemed kind of natural. We weren't actually really trying when we got pregnant, but we knew that if it did happen, we would be totally okay with that and super excited, which is actually, what happened. So.
And with that, how did you find out you were pregnant, especially if you weren't quite trying?
Well, I was late, and Chase had been asking me pretty much every day, like, well, you should go and take a test, you should go and see. And I'd never taken a pregnancy test before. And so I was like, I don't know, like, there's no way, there's absolutely, because we weren't really trying. I was like, there's no way we could be pregnant. But he kept asking me every day. And so he was at work, and I went and grabbed a test, and I took it, and like immediately I felt like those usually take a few minutes, but in like a few seconds it was like pregnant. And so we came home. We actually had a friend visiting, was staying with us. And so we came home with our friends after some event or something in DC. And he whispered in the kitchen, he's like, did you take a test? Do you know? And I was like, oh no, because I didn't want to say it in front of our friend. I wanted it to be, kind of a one-on-one moment.
Right.
And so we went into the bedroom or something, and I was like, guess what? I did take it. He's like, what? And I told him that we were pregnant, and he immediately lost it. He was so excited. And I was like, but maybe we shouldn't like tell people. And as I'm like beginning to say the sentence, he just screams, our friend Chaz. He's like, Chaz, we're having a baby. So like literally within like 2 minutes of finding out, he already told someone. He's not the greatest at keeping secrets, which is honestly a benefit for me. But he immediately spilled the beans. And it was actually the same night the Nats won the World Series for the first time, which in our
that's awesome.
I know,
what a cool story.
In our relationship, it's kind of been somehow centered around Nats baseball. So we were on our first date and stuff like that. Neither of us are very into sports. Neither of us are like huge fans, but it was such a thing at the time. We were so excited, and it just so happens that the night we found out was the night they won the World Series, which was pretty cool. We lived at the time across from the stadium, from Nats Park, and there were a minimum of probably 50,000 people out there cheering and screaming. And so I said it was, for a pregnancy announcement, not for the
Of course, obviously.
It's funny.
And how did you tell your families then?
Well, we didn't want to tell everyone right away because we're going to a wedding in Mexico with all of my family in a few weeks. And so I wanted to tell them in person. So it was really hard to keep a secret, but I had to call my sister and tell her. And then we wanted to, just have the night just us and just kind of, celebrate that way. And then pretty much the next day we told almost everybody except we told my family in person, which they all guessed because at a wedding, not holding, a drink, they all pretty much, yeah.
So how was delivery and how are you recovering? How was all of that going? And I guess also, how was delivery compared to how you expected it to be since you delivered during COVID?
I got lucky because, they had to test me for COVID before going in, and I was negative, which was a huge relief for me because this whole experience being pregnant during, a global pandemic wasn't the easiest. Going into appointments, wearing a mask, being afraid of catching something. Where I was going for my appointments was actually a active COVID-19 testing site. So it was scary going in, but I had to. My OB told me, she's, you really should come in. That's how we get your vitals. It's how we know everything is safe and everything is going well. And so, every week for the last month, I had to go in. And it was, a little stressful, a little scary.
Did they let Chase go with you to those regular appointments?
No, he wasn't allowed in. So you weren't allowed to take another person with you, which was kind of a bummer because some of the last appointments you're getting ultrasounds and seeing your baby again was so exciting. And, it's our first child. And so it was kind of sad that he couldn't go for kind of the bigger appointments. There was also, I had to be monitored for one of my appointments too, because they just, were worried something was wrong. Everything was fine. And so I had to be monitored. And it just would have been nice to have, your husband there holding your hand just because he's so present in my life that it was, something I really, really wanted, but couldn't do. But I got the test because it was after his due date. And so they had scheduled an induction. And is that the right word? I can't think of it now. It feels like it was
Yes,
like
yep.
forever ago. Luckily, it came back negative, which was great. But it was funny because, I'd have appointments after that and I'd go in and they would see on my profile that I got a COVID-19 test. And I remember the receptionist would freak out because they have this whole protocol. When you go in, they ask you all these questions, they take your temperature, they make sure you're wearing your mask, they ask, it's a whole production. You can only go up the elevator with one other person, so you're waiting in line for forever to go up. And I wasn't going to walk up to the 7th floor being super pregnant.
Oh, no.
Voluntarily, I wasn't going to do that. And so I would go up and I'd check in and she would look on my profile and see that I'd gotten a COVID-19 test. And I remember she stopped talking to me. She got up, she ran to the back, talked to someone for a good 10 minutes. I'm just standing there wondering what's going on. She was like, okay, I thought that you were feeling symptoms and you took the test, but apparently you weren't. And it was just like your entry to the hospital just to make sure you didn't have it. And I was like, yes, you could have asked me.
Right. Why didn't she just ask you?
I was terrified that something bad had happened. But so now I feel like every time I go into the doctor's office, they're going to see that and freak out that I was feeling, symptomatic and had to go get a test or something.
Right.
But I was one of the lucky ones. I did not have it. And so when I was in labor and went to the hospital, we knew that Chase could come in because my test was negative, which was actually good too, because it was a few days after, that, I took the test. And so if I would have gotten in those 3 days, they still would have let him in, which was good.
That's good.
And so, they let him in and it ended up being okay. We're wearing masks the whole time with all of my care providers and everything, but my first experience ever going through it, and the nurses make you feel really comfortable. Like my Nurse Elizabeth was just it was just so amazing. We ended up, becoming so close throughout the whole process, and everyone was just great, just dealing with the global pandemic as best we can. I think the worst part was just kind of the anticipation, being afraid that maybe they wouldn't let him in, or being afraid that I was symptomatic and I did have COVID, because if I did, then I would basically give birth and then they would take my baby for an undisclosed amount of time, and then I wouldn't be able to hold him until they told me I could. And then we would have been at the hospital for a really long time. So I just got so lucky, and it was all the what ifs leading up to it. That was probably the worst part. But once you're there and you're in it, everything was great. Everyone was so nice, and I just felt really cared for. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But as a first-time mom, had to be so scary.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to test Chase then, it sounds like.
No, which I felt was kind of strange. Technically, because he wasn't a patient, they didn't test him. But it seemed a little odd that, he would be there during the whole process. He'd be holding the baby, and they had no idea if he, had it or not. Yeah, you would think that they would mandatorily have to test him.
Right. Yeah. He was there.
Yeah.
Did they give him screening questions or anything?
No.
Or
as long as the mom was good.
Well, thank goodness that he got to be there.
Did you have to wear a mask while you were the entire time you labored?
Well, when I was in active labor, they could see that I was in a lot of pain and distress, that they were like, the mom has an exception and can take the mask off. So midway through, they're like, you can take your mask off. We're going to let you do that. I was like, thank you.
Oh, that's so hard that this is where we're at.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
It's just absolutely crazy times. But overall, it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
That's good.
Well, that's good. And I remember we talked to you a couple days prior to it, and you had such a positive attitude about it, which is great.
Yes.
So, what else are you going to do? But
exactly. So when at first my OB told me, if either of you test positive or have it, there are going to be all these other chain reaction of things. One being that you're going to have to deliver without your husband, which to me was probably the hardest thing, because he's just my rock in my support system, and just thinking about him not being in the room and meeting his child the second he's born was just so devastating and sad to think about, that I would, kind of lose it a little bit. But they told me about it, months in advance, because all this had been going on for so long, that after a while, I remember one day I just woke up and I told him, I was like, if you can't be there, I can do it. I can handle it. I don't know what it was, but it was like one day I just like got over it and was able to, kind of mentally prepare. But, I told that to him, and he goes, well, I'm not prepared for that. I'm glad you are, but I need to be there.
Yes, that's fair. I can't imagine being in that
No.
situation either.
Right. I mean, hard enough for you, but not to be able to support your partner or see like you said, see your child would be gut-wrenching.
Yeah, and he is like such my support system throughout everything in my life that I just like could not imagine this huge monumental thing, not doing it with him would just be just crazy. But got lucky, I guess.
Right.
Yes.
Well, so glad that he was able to be there with you and that you could take your mask off during the worst parts.
Yeah.
It was mainly so that they could hear my screams more, probably.
Did you? I didn't even ask this. Did you get an epidural?
I did, which was
okay. Not that it helps for all of it.
Yeah, but I mean, it was glorious because I had like the worst contractions. I was in so much pain. They actually told me when I came in, I was like 3 or 4 centimeters dilated. And they told me that if I wasn't in so much pain, they would have told me to go home and come back when I was closer to delivering. Because I got in at, I think it was 8 p.m. at night, and I was luckily had my epidural, slept through the night, and then started like real active labor around 5:30 in the morning. And so I was so grateful for the epidural, but apparently they had to reduce my dosage because I wasn't pushing properly and in the doctor's words, needed to feel it, which I didn't feel like was necessary for me. But they reduced it so much that it was just excruciating pain. A lot of people ask me about it, and I just say it was like the most painful yet joyful experience of my entire life. And it's so funny because when you're in it, you think to yourself, there's no way I can do this. How am I supposed to, deliver this baby? And then as soon as he enters the world, you forget all about it. And you're just like, oh yeah, let's do it again. Let's have another one. This
or 5 more.
Perfect little miracle. Yeah. Or 5. Chase has his way.
Yeah. Yeah, it is amazing how quickly you're like, oh, the pain's gone. It's fine.
Yeah.
Even though literally minutes before you're thinking, I'm going to die. I'm actually dying.
Yeah. And even, pregnancy, I'm not sure for you guys, but pregnancy was not very easy for me. I was nauseated 24/7 for 9 months. And, even though every day I was miserable and wanted to throw up, and I got so huge, our little baby that was born was 8.5 pounds. So he was a big baby. I was so huge, wobbling around the house that as soon as he was born, I was like, oh yeah, let's do it all again. 9 months, nothing. I can handle it.
Oh, well, it is worth it. And he's so cute.
Yes, he's very cute. And how was the rest of the hospital stay then? Like how long did you leave earlier than you normally would have?
Oh, gosh.
What was that like?
Well, I was really hoping we would. Our baby was a very healthy baby, but he was at potentially high risk of jaundice because he got his dad's blood type and not mine. And so when he was born, apparently the blood like mixes and it can create, higher levels of bilirubin in his system, and he has a high risk of jaundice. And so he was relatively healthy except for that. And so we ended up being there though for 4 nights, which was a little crazy because the first night they were like, oh, mom needs to recover. We just want to monitor the baby, make sure nothing bad happens. And the second day they're like, his bilirubin's a little high, so we just want to watch him one more night. And I was like, okay. And then the next night they're like, okay, it's still a little high. We're going to try again one more night. We're going to test in the morning and see how he's doing. And then at 9 a.m. after the third night, at 9 a.m. the next day, then pediatrician came in. She was like, his levels are still too high. He needs to have phototherapy for 24 hours. And we were like, okay, whatever he needs, that's fine. And she goes, but the thing is, you guys need to be discharged now because you've had enough, stays with your insurance or something like that. They're like, so you guys have to be discharged. And I was like, well, can I still be here to, nurse him? Can we still see him? She goes, no, you need to be discharged now. And then you just come pick him up tomorrow morning.
What?
You just leave?
Yeah, and I was like, well, why is that? She goes, well, before COVID, you could go into the nursery and like see your baby and still nurse him and like come back and, hang out around the hospital. But they're like, with COVID, you can't do that. So you'll just be discharged and pick him up in 24 hours. And I was like, I can't leave my baby here. Like, he's like a 3-day-old and I'm a new mom. I can't leave him. He's so fragile and so precious that I could not even imagine. And then so the pediatrician was like, let me talk to some people. Let me see what I can do. And then she came back, a little bit later and she was like, okay, we can give you a late discharge. So you can be discharged at 9 p.m., feed him every other feeding for the next 12 hours, and then leave at night and come the next morning and pick him up. And I was like, if that is the best you guys can do, I will take it. I was like, if I could leave some of my milk for him or do something. And I was like, whatever is, the healthiest option for him to get over this hump, like we will do that. But I would really like to stay another night if at all possible. And she was like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And so we have Kaiser insurance, and that was the pediatrician at the hospital. And then our pediatrician from Kaiser came in because we also get that additional care provider. And she came in and she was like, oh, I saw his bilirubin's a little high. They might come in and tell you he needs phototherapy. And I was like, yeah, they already did. Apparently needs 24 hours under it. She goes, oh, okay, so I'll extend your stay for another night and we'll see how he's doing the next day. And I was like, excuse me? Because Chase and I just had this like very emotional like few hours of like, can't even imagine leaving our newborn baby at the hospital without us and somehow going home and thinking that's normal and somehow coming in the next day and getting our baby was just like beyond us and was a very emotional time for us. And then her just coming in and in 2 seconds being like, oh no, they told you have to leave. I would never separate a mother from her baby. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
You'll come in like 3 hours earlier because we just were on this emotional roller coaster. And she was like, oh no, absolutely not. I will not do that to you guys. And I was like, thank you. You are, just an amazing individual. And so our nurse was so sweet because you become so close to your nurses. I have this newfound appreciation, I never known. I never luckily had really been at the hospital, had experience with nurses, but they are just amazing people and they're so caring and they're so attentive and they're so knowledgeable. I just have this deep appreciation for them. Anyway, so our nurse came in and she was jumping up and down. She was clapping. She was like, I just heard the news. And, I had so many questions for the doctor. Like, they're not going to have to pay for this, right? They're not going to get like a surprise bill. Like, this is going to be covered through insurance. And the doctor was like, absolutely. I'm going to make sure because this is like a necessary thing for their child's health. And she's like, I'm so happy. And it was really, really sweet. So it was a little traumatic, but it ended up okay. But at the end of the day, we're like, whatever is the best thing for our child is what we will do. And no matter how hard it is, given what's going on in the world, we're just going to have to, roll with the punches. We ended up being there for 4 nights for a relatively, healthy baby. And it was funny, he was born on July 1st and we got discharged on July 4th. And so we called it our Independence Day or his Independence Day. And when they were, it's DC, everyone's setting off fireworks in the street. So when all the fireworks are going off, we told him that it was a celebratory for him.
Yes, he really got bookended by celebrations in DC.
Yes, yeah, everyone celebrates. See, I tell you, it's for him. It's not, it's clearly not anything else.
Yeah, that is a long stay for a healthy delivery.
Yeah.
But it's, the mom usually gets to go, now it's so quick.
And the first night was just, me delivering or me being in labor and having contractions. And the next 3 were, monitoring him, making sure he was okay.
Yeah.
But he no jaundice now and he was good. And I remember the next day, a different pediatrician, the hospital pediatrician came in and he was like, because we were nervous, we were just like, oh gosh, they're going to tell us again. And then they won't let us stay another night or something crazy. And the other pediatrician came in for the hospital and was like, oh, he's great. His levels are so low. He doesn't even need to get tested again.
Oh,
they're like,
that's awesome.
They won't even test him for bilirubin or to check his bilirubin levels because they're so low now. So I was like, oh, okay, like we never know what we're going to get when you guys walk in here. So that's great to hear.
Right.
Yeah, but it was those moments, throughout those 24 hours that we would get him every other feeding, and we'd only get him for 30 minutes. And I remember Chase and I would just be in our room, just, we'd have our watches clocked at when we estimated, our little baby would be coming in again. And every single time he did, every single time that door opened, we would just get so excited. And no matter what time of night it was, we would just be holding him for a precious little 30 minutes with our little baby boy. And it was probably some of the best moments at the hospital, just because, the anticipation of like seeing him and then missing him for several hours, like in between the feedings. Was probably the sweetest part when he actually came in all bundled and sweet and our little baby.
Yeah, that sounds really tough too, to have to be separated like that.
Yeah. Well, luckily, Disney Plus just released Hamilton, and so we had 3 hours of Broadway to entertain us.
That was great timing.
It really was. Thank you, Disney Plus. We needed a good distraction while we waited.
Right. So how is your support system? I mean, we all sort of have ideas after we have the baby, like, oh, okay, I'm going to join a new mom's group and my family's going to come in and all my friends are going to come over and see the baby. And I imagine it hasn't been exactly how you expected or how you've been able to do it. So tell us about that, how it sort of shifted and, expectation versus COVID reality.
Yeah, I mean, before everything went down, we had a plan for pretty much constant visitors through the end of the year. My mom would come for 2 to 3 weeks. Chase's mom would come for 2 to 3 weeks. And then our siblings would come and our friends would, wanted to fly in and meet the baby or wanted to, visit and, hang out with us for our friends that lived in DC. And we pretty much had it all set, but we wouldn't need any care until the beginning of the year, likely. And I mean, that pretty much all changed. It's for on my mom's side, her first grandbaby, and she was so excited to meet him. She actually planned a trip out here and came and visited him a few weeks after he was born, which was great. I mean, the airlines did a really nice job, filtering the air out and doing the social distance thing, and the airports actually did a really nice job of it too, but they felt relatively safe. So they came out and visited with also my grandma, which I was probably most concerned about my grandma, being older and coronavirus, like really actually impacting, the older generation more. I was more worried about my grandma than us or the baby. But when they came, we just like quarantined them and they wore masks for this, for the first several days. And as long as they were feeling okay, they eventually were able to take off their masks, and they stayed for 2 weeks, and it ended up being great. I mean, we were as careful as possible, but, my mom really wanted to see her little grandbaby. And then both of Chase's parents actually came out too for a few nights and did the same thing, and were as careful as possible when holding the baby, always wearing a mask and, washing hands. And if anyone was feeling symptomatic, immediately have to tell us. We have to figure it out. But we luckily have a, English basement. And so they were able to stay down here and like quarantine for a little bit before, meeting the baby. So that was good.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So, I mean, if people are still making an effort to come out and meet him, but it's, it's just all about being as cautious and careful as possible and having whatever precautions that we can do, whatever people feel the most safe doing. Want to wear the mask longer, wear the mask longer. If we feel like they need to, they will. And so it's just whatever we can do, honestly.
That's great. I'm sure that was hard if there was any talk of them not coming. I can't imagine grandparents not coming. I know we had like a whole plan about when grandparents were going to visit us, and it all went out the window. As soon as that baby was born, they were like all on their way, pre-COVID times. So I can't imagine keeping grandparents away from that baby.
Yeah. We just, whatever they were comfortable doing, and we basically did. And they were so excited to meet him. I mean, there's something about, meeting a baby for the first time that's just, so special and so meaningful. And it would have just been so sad if, they weren't able to meet him until his first birthday. So we do what we felt like we could do, and everyone was comfortable with it. And luckily, nothing bad has happened. So, we're just incredibly lucky.
Those are some interesting baby pictures that he's going to have to look back on too. With all these people holding him with baths on, like, what was wrong with me?
No, we did a newborn photo session with a professional photographer, and she was like, I have to take a picture with you guys in your mask. She's like, it will not be part of your like official, package,
Right.
but it's you got to remember the times. It's so crazy. And
Oh, absolutely.
even now I've been saying, he was born July 1st. I was like, it's totally in the realm of possibility that he might celebrate his first birthday still in quarantine.
Right. Which is crazy.
It's hard to
his first
think
year of
about.
life.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to think of,
Right.
but I mean, this is the times that we're in.
A COVID baby.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that I don't think we really touched on is when you got pregnant, none of this was happening. So people who delivered during COVID had no concept that was going to be the turn that your pregnancy took.
That it would be the new normal. Yeah. Because, it was around like Halloween time that, we found out that we were expecting, and it's completely changed. It's almost Halloween again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I mean, it's just a completely, completely different time.
Right.
I have to say, because it was pretty much my third trimester when, the quarantine started happening and everyone started working from home. It was kind of nice because for my work, I do a lot of travel, actually. I'd probably travel like every other week. And a lot of it would be to the West Coast, which was a solid 6-hour flight, plus all the time at the, airport. And it's exhausting. And, leading up to it, I thought that I would still have to do like a couple of those trips until, they tell you can't fly anymore, whenever that time is. But it was kind of nice. Just all in-person meetings stopped. All corporate travel stopped. And I just got to be at home and relaxing. And, if I just wanted to sit on my couch with my laptop on my lap and, just need to put my feet up, I could do that. Or if I needed to take like a 15-20 minute nap, I could just go to my bed and do that. Whereas in the office, I probably would have still been going in pretty much my entire third trimester, and I didn't have to do that anymore. So although like it was different and difficult in other ways, it really kind of was a blessing in disguise being able to work from home for so long. And, for my maternity leave too, I was, talking to my coworkers about what I wanted to do. And I was like, this prior to COVID happening. And I was like, X amount of weeks, completely off the grid. And then I was like, probably like 3 weeks just working from home, just kind of in the groove. I'll go to meetings if I need to, if it's an important meeting with a client or something. But otherwise I'll plan on, being with my baby for a few weeks working from home. And now the 3 weeks is probably a year. Once we get it, I don't know if there's going to be another wave of it, but that's what, some people are saying. If there's a whole nother wave, I could be here for a long time. And it's just kind of nice to be able to be at home and have those precious moments, and, not have to, pump in a broom closet. It's kind of nice.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, bless silver linings. You just gotta find the silver linings.
That's funny. That's exactly what was in my head. Like finding the silver lining in COVID.
Yeah.
Do you have childcare lined up previously, and has that changed? Or what are your plans for when you go back, and when will you go back?
Yeah, no, we hadn't planned for anything yet because we assumed that we would have, care through the end of the year, just with people visiting. And Chase has a really flexible parental leave, which is actually really great. He can take his leave. It's like 2 months or something, and he can take it in at three different times. So he can start and stop whenever he wants to within the next year. And so then we had talked about when I would go back to work, he would go full-time Manny and take care of the baby. And, so we were still planning on doing all that, but now you don't really have to. I think we can likely manage through the end of the year not getting additional care. We'll kind of see how it goes. I don't know, but if all goes well, we probably won't need to start really looking or doing anything to the end of the year to start beginning of next year. But it all just kind of depends. And it would be kind of weird having someone come into our home and watch our little baby boy during this kind of crazy time, because you don't know what other homes they're going into and things like that. So it's something we thought about, but haven't, had to really do anything about it yet.
When will you be going back?
Next week, actually.
Oh, wow. How are you feeling about it?
It's funny because, for my whole adult life, you're at a computer and you're typing and you're writing up memos or, in our world, like op-eds and things like that. And I haven't really typed anything. You send 50 emails a day and now you're sending 0. And I feel like I got reverse carpal tunnel where my fingers actually kind of hurt. I think it's because they're not being used anymore.
They need the workout.
Yeah. But I'm actually kind of excited to go back, excited also knowing that I can still be with my baby throughout the day, which is great. But excited to go back and use my brain again. I feel like I've been dormant for a little bit. And so I'm actually looking forward to it. And my work, we're like family. And so it's me going in and being with family. And I'm actually looking forward to it.
Well, that's so good. Yeah, I totally get the wanting to use your brain. That first week, I was so excited. I get to think about something that's not nursing schedules or washing the bottle parts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that you don't have to when you're cooking and everything. Yeah, it's nice to use your brain in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And still have the mix of being able to, hang out with our little guy too, which is pretty nice. Again, silver lining.
Yes.
If there is a recurring theme.
Yeah.
Probably that. I mean, even, some people are like, oh, you had to be at the hospital for 4 nights. There must have been some, bad thing that happened. I'm like, no, it was fine. Luckily it wasn't anything super major. We just ended up having to be there for so long. But the benefit was, the first 2 nights when we had him, it was, if something were to happen at 3 a.m. and he was, we tried feeding him, we tried burping him, we tried swaddling him, he was still crying and we couldn't figure out why. All you had to do is just hit a button and the nurse would come at any time of night, and they are professionals. And so we come and we'd run down the list. We did this, we did this, we did this, but he's still crying. What do we do? Or, are we changing his diaper right? Is it tight enough or is it too loose? All these questions that, as soon as you have the baby for 2 days, you know what to do after that. But, the first time questions and the troubleshooting and just being afraid that maybe it's something, more serious and just not knowing, we had the ability to just hit a button and a nurse would come running and help us. So by the time we left, we felt like old pros. We're like, oh yeah, so this is how you swaddle, and oh, if he's crying, did you do this? We'd run through the checklist in our head. And so when we went home, we just felt so on top of it and we felt like we knew exactly what to do. So, I mean, for the most part, we felt like we knew what to do. But so, I mean, that silver lining, even getting to stay at the hospital longer ended up being, kind of a blessing for us.
For sure. Those nurses are angels. I agree with you. They are. Megan's a nurse, so she can, but they're, I mean, you're postpartum, you don't know what's going on. And it's so nice to have them there and be so kind and helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Megan, what you guys do is amazing. Gosh, Nurse Elizabeth, it was so sweet because, I was admitted, the night before. And so I got her as she was taking the night shift. So I got her she was the first person I met when I got there. And then she was there through the morning and our little baby boy was born at 7:30. And so the shift was ending, I think at 7 or something, sometime early. She was like, I know he's coming any second now. She's like, I'm just going to stay. I have to meet him. I've been with you now throughout your whole process here. And so I have to stay. I have to meet this little guy. I'm so excited. And so I felt like she was kind of like family for us, after everything and all the pain and the labor. She was just so amazing that I don't know if I could have done it without her too.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy how quickly that bond forms.
Oh my gosh.
You go in there, you know nothing about this person, not even their last name half the time. And then you said their family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also it was kind of funny, Megan, you probably know this, but so I gave birth on July 1st. And on July 1st, around 7 a.m., is when all the newbies start. All the
Yes.
training,
All the new residents.
all the new residents.
Yes.
And so when I gave birth, there were like 20 people in the room. And I remember thinking, I was like, why are there so many people? It's because my nurse had a nurse who had a new nurse. And then I had my doctor who had the chief resident and the new resident that just started that morning. And it was just, there were so many people in the room. And afterwards, my doctor actually was like, I have to admit, giving birth on July 1st is probably one of the worst days to do it because all the newbies are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and they're so excited. And I was the only one in the maternity ward that night and that day. Some people were coming in for like a scheduled C-section later, but I was the only one in there. So everyone was so excited. They're just starting their first day and this woman, about to deliver a baby. And so there was just an insane amount. I mean, I think it was more than usual. I don't know how many people were there when you guys, delivered.
I was going to say, I had one.
I think there were 2 people besides Patrick.
The midwife came in right as he came out just to catch him, and that was it. John was about to have to do it because there was a storm the night that my daughter was born, and apparently that put a lot of women into labor, so they were turning people away, and no one was around to catch this baby. So no, 20 seems abnormally high.
It was a lot of people. I mean, and so I had all these people like cheering me on. They're like, "You can do it. I know it's really hard, but we have, we can see him. He's coming." And so I felt like I had like a whole audience, like an entire peanut gallery, but everyone was really nice and not hecklers or anything like that.
That's helpful.
But
Oh
it was
my God.
also everyone was like training, and they wanted people to experience that and get have that moment. And so, like with stitches and things, it took a little longer because they were learning and everything was just, I felt like maybe a little more painful and a little more drawn out because everyone was just so excited and learning and they weren't like super fast or professionals yet. And so I just remember my doctor afterwards, she's like, "I'm sorry, this is probably one of the worst days to give birth because everyone is so excited and there's so many people."
Sounds like you guys were very gracious during the stay of rolling with it and
For
being kind during kind of some hard, stressful things.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I think it was probably just because my husband was able to be there and we are able to laugh about everything during and after, which really, really helped.
Wow.
And how are you guys settling in at home? I feel like we've talked about how you guys are adjusting yet and how you felt recovering.
Oh gosh, pretty much as soon as he was born, I felt like myself again.
Good.
That's amazing.
How was I carrying around, an 8.5-pound baby? And, there are other things too that weigh you down. And I was just like, I can't even, I hold him from time to time. And I'm like, you were in my stomach for, for so long at this, weight is just kind of crazy. And so as soon as he was born, like really the next day, I was starting to walk around, feeling like myself. I felt like my energy levels are going back up. It was probably also the adrenaline of having him as well. But I began to feel like myself again. And it was really, really nice. My husband was so sweet. They would bring in, 3 meals for us a day, the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we had this tiny little table that also goes over the bed. So you can eat in bed and things like that. But we pushed it off to the side and he would put 2 chairs out and he would, set the table. And so when we ate, we were acting like we were eating at our dinner table and having conversations and trying to feel, normal again, even though we were, locked in this teeny tiny room and really not able to go anywhere because of COVID and all of that. But I really, began to feel like myself again. I began to feel like, we're back in the swing of things in our relationship. And it's honestly just been very natural. And I feel like, knock on wood, I feel like kind of easy. I feel like having our little baby boy was definitely easier than going through, a 9-month pregnancy. It's a whole different type of thing. But if I were to compare them, I would say it's been a lot easier having him.
Yeah, so glad you're doing well.
Yeah, it's been surprisingly very easy and smooth. It's been a smooth transition.
What are you doing to take care of yourself? For me, I remember going to get a postpartum massage at like 5 weeks. Like those kind of things you can't do right now for most people in COVID. So what are you doing to take care of yourself?
Well, giving myself pedicures, because when I was pregnant, and at the time when I was pregnant where I couldn't reach my feet because my stomach was so big, and then I couldn't go in and get a pedicure because of COVID, it was actually hard for me to not have, you just need to feel pretty at times, right? And you
For
just
sure.
need to feel like a little pampered, or just try and be in control of something, right? And seeing my terrible toenails and like needing, just a beautiful pedicure with a nice pop of color to make me feel, feminine. And I wasn't able to do that. And so now I can reach my toes. And it's been nice to just like have, have a pedicure again, and like just do those kind of like little like self-pampering things. Some of my girlfriends were so sweet and got me this really nice, spa day, and I haven't been able to use it yet. And it's been, not to sound whatever, but I really, really wish I could use it and get out a little more. But we try and go on walks. I try to just take care of myself. I try and put on makeup from time to time and do my hair and just, feel normal, like I have somewhere to go. But just those little things that I can do, just those little things that can, really make a difference and make me feel like I can get through the day until, my my nail salon opens up again.
Definitely.
So are there any tips that you would give to someone who's pregnant right now or who's about to have their baby or just had theirs, beyond, like you said, taking care of yourself wherever you can, but you've been so positive about it. It sounds like that certainly helped you going into it. Is there any tips that you would give to someone who's about to go through what you just went through?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say don't let the what ifs keep you up at night. What if I do have
Mm-hmm.
COVID, and what if they do take my baby away? What if my husband can't come, my partner can't come with me? What if they, turn us away, or something, anything that pops in your head? What if something goes wrong? All of those things. It's really the anticipation that can really, is really can be the worst part, and preparing for it. So just know everything will be fine. You will have an amazing support system, even if your husband can't come with you or your partner, and just kind of roll with the punches. I mean, for me, I've never given birth during a non-COVID time, so I can't compare. But my experience was actually a really great one. And although there were some stressful times of, not knowing what was going to happen, or being afraid, our baby would get COVID or I would or something like that, just you just have to roll with it, stay positive, find that silver lining, and just kind of go with it. Because I mean, for me, the experience really wasn't that bad, and it was, in comparison to what I would imagine it would have been like pre-COVID. For me, it wasn't that bad, and so you just kind of have to know that everything will work out in the end.
It's really great advice for probably all of us.
Yeah.
But I feel like for anyone who's pregnant, even not during COVID, to
Yeah.
learn to roll with it
Yeah.
is helpful.
And I mean, another thing I would say is just try and control what you can. There's so much that happens, and it's all so fast once you're at the hospital that you don't even have time to think, and you don't even make decisions. Decisions are made for you. And so just control what you can. If you want to do something little, do something little. If you need to do something to make you feel better, just do those things. But so just control what you can, because there's a lot you can't, and it'll help with your sanity.
That's parenting in general.
Yeah,
right?
that's great advice for all times.
Yeah, I could use your guys' tips on what to do now that I have the baby.
He's 6
You're
weeks,
doing
you're
great.
fine. Yeah.
He's starting to coo and smile now, and
Oh,
so
fun.
it is so precious. You smile at him and he reacts with a big toothless grin, and it's so cute.
Yeah, when they start to wake up, it's so fun to see
Mhm.
little bits of like the effort that you put in. Getting something back from them feels like you won the lottery.
Mhm.
And just the way he's like just looking at the world and trying to figure out what's happening around him, looking at his eyes, looking at the world is just amazing.
Oh, it's so true.
And the newborn baby smell.
Oh, yes, that smell.
They need to bottle that
Someone
up
needs
and
to
make
bottle that. Yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
perfume or a candle or something. I don't know, but they need to they need to find a way to market that.
Oh, it's the best. So, what are you most excited about doing with him? Either 10 years from now or, after COVID's over, what are you excited about, making memories with him doing?
Oh gosh, that is a great question. I guess I'm just excited to do all the little things with him. Watching him grow, trying to teach him little things, help him grow into a strong man who's, in touch with his emotions. And I guess I'm just excited to do all those little things and see what he grows up to be. Sometimes I look at him in his bassinet and I just think to myself, gosh, you have the whole world ahead of you. And whatever you do, I will support you and I will love you. And so I'm just kind of excited to see what he ends up doing with, this great gift of life. So I guess it's all those little things that I'm most excited about.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
If you ask my husband, it's, going hunting and going out into the woods. And,
Yeah,
not surprised.
teaching him all about, his favorite archer and things like that.
That'll be good bonding.
Yeah.
And do you have any, I know all of us have like some baby diaper blowout story or some like, oh, we didn't know what we were doing there. Do you have any funny or really cute baby stories yet for us or parenting?
Gosh, I really don't have. I mean, I have experienced blowouts, but I would not say they were cute in any way.
That's fair.
It's funny, you're just holding him and all of a sudden you hear it and then you smell it and you're just like, here we go. It's gonna be a thing. And so there was one funny story when we were in the hospital still. When you have a baby, your breasts aren't yours anymore. I mean, they're like they're a cafeteria and they're giving out free food. And so you have the nurses helping you, teaching you latching and how to really nurse your baby and how to pump and everything. And, you just get used to people helping you in that area where you've never had that. It's never been a normal part of your day. I'm sure both of you know this.
Yes.
And so I remember I was at the hospital and I had just finished nursing and then the nurse had just left. She was helping me latch and something like that. And I just remember I didn't realize that I hadn't, covered back up. And everyone's coming in, asking you questions, making sure you're okay, making sure your baby's okay and giving you tests and all of this. And so I remember this younger guy came in and he was doing the hearing test. And I had just finished nursing and I hadn't covered up yet. And it was so funny because he came in and he goes, oh, I'm here to give the test. And he kind of looks at me and kind of, gives me these shocked eyes. Oh gosh, what did I do? He's like a young, he had to be in his early 20s. And I'm thinking, oh, I actually didn't think anything of it because I got so used to, just being, in open like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so he eventually, you tell he got kind of nervous. He goes, oh, I can come back later if you're, if you need some time. And I was like, oh no, you're fine. And then Chase looks at me and goes, honey, do you want to cover up? And I was like, oh, yeah. Gosh, I forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot about normal human decency.
Right.
Totally understand.
Your boobs are just out 24/7. Because they're not boobs anymore for any other purpose than they're a food source.
Exactly. Yes. And I just got so used to nurses just being so comfortable, just helping me out in any way they felt necessary. It kind of became the new normal that I forgot what it's like to be around people.
Right. That's so funny.
That's a great story. That's perfect.
We've all been there.
Yes.
Well, Jen, this has been so great. I really hope, if there's anyone listening who's pregnant or, even trying to get pregnant or about to have their baby, just they find some helpful tips or just some comfort in the fact that you did it and you live to tell the tale and you're happy and baby and you are healthy. And that's all that really matters.
They're not alone.
Totally.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and being our first guest.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Thank you so much for listening to the first ever episode of Mommin'. We hope you enjoyed listening to our first episode.
And if you like what you heard, we'd love if you could like and subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends. You can find us at momandpodcast.com and Mom and Podcast on Instagram. Thanks for listening.